Vaglio Costello. I teach ART182, and I would love to tell you what the class is going to be about so that you are prepared. We will be meeting twice a week. The class is scheduled for 6 hours. Part of that time, we actually will meet on Zoom, and I will do demonstrations, like for anything between an hour and a half. We will be meeting, and the rest of the time, you will have a series of tutorials and videos that I have prepared for you to watch on your own that is going to help you to progress through the software, the design skills, and the projects that are due. So the course, this is the Canvas course, and I'm going to do a quick panorama of what we're covering. The very first module is simply, a welcome module in which I introduce myself, meet your instructor, has a video about me, and I tell you who I am, where do I come from, why do I have an accent, and when the class is meeting, what the class is about. And later on in that same module, you will see that there is my teaching philosophy. If you have questions, please post them. And then a quick assignment that is geared to actually get you to understand how Canvas works. So the platform we're using, how to use it correctly. Then there's a second module, the syllabus, that talks about when everything is due, course information, and many, many more things that Cal Poly requires us to put there for good reasons, like academic honesty and what support you have if you have any difficulty in Cal Poly. And then finally, we dive into the week-by-week modules. In those modules, you will see that you basically every week, you can open the module and have a checklist that tells you everything that you must do. By the way, all the links that have this to do at the end means you really should open that page. And you'll see that I explain what are we going to do that week, what are the learning outcomes, what are you supposed to learn, and what are the assignments you're supposed to turn in. And some are going to be assignments, some are going to be discussion. There's a discussion component to the class. So that first link for every week is about what is due, what is covered this week. Then there is this learning resources, and those are the videos that I was telling you about. I prepared for you so that you can progress through your learning. Remember, the class is not just about software, it's also about design, and in fact is a good component. There's at least 50% is about designing. You'll see that you have projects in which you design, and you have videos and lectures about the design process and how the design occurs, the design component occurs. Obviously, we have some videos on technical skills, and you'll see they're going to always be between not more than an hour and a half, pretty much, between 70 and 90 something minutes. The reason why is because, as I said, during the class, we meet just for half the class, and the other half is about you doing work on your own. But that work will, I'm committed to leave those videos always to be about an hour to an hour and a half, so that you still stay within the class time. You don't have what you would call homework. You might have to do the design assignment extra, but as I said, I'm really committed to try to keep things within those 6 hours a week of class time. So learning resources, absolutely to do. There are video to watch. Then we have the discussion that is also to do. In the discussion, I oftentimes present in the first week, I just ask you to create a video about yourself and introduce yourself, because it's really important for us to get to know each other. You'll see that we will have breakout rooms and time in which the class is about you. It's not me talking, but it's you talking to your classmates. So the discussions are, the very first one is about introducing yourself and responding to one of your classmates' introduction. The other discussions are always going to be about a design topic. So I will introduce in a video a design topic, and you will have to find resources on that topic to post. So there will always be every week a discussion. And then we have projects. The projects are the design part. So for example, always you'll see that there is, when you ever see indentation in these modules, is because it is everything that falls under the project. So you'll have a project 1 outline. Obviously you'll have 4 projects. So every time there will be an outline. There will be a process that shows all the key dates. And there will be other, parts of that, like when is this or that due. So let's go and look at project 1 so you have a sense of which projects we're doing. This is called one natural object in 4 different styles. So you pick a object, no matter if it's, these are examples of past work of classmates. In this case, the object was, a natural object was a leaf, right? You can pick, you know, like from like flowers to pine cones to all kind of things that have to do with nature. I've seen students even picking animals and doing it very successfully. So what you will have to put together is these, you will basically in Illustrator trace this natural object and have 4 different styles of illustration, and then create this beautiful e-card to promote your work. I will obviously explain it a lot more in detail when class starts. Right now we're going to just do a very quick overview. So as I said, you have project 1, introduction, and then you go underneath that outline. There is the process that explains what are the dates in which everything is due, and is always, you know, highlighted in red. You'll see that you mainly have in this class Wednesdays and Sundays. That is when things are due. Wednesdays are more related to the projects, and Sundays is more related to this discussions. But right here is step by step, week by week, when is everything due, and later on there is also a rubric for the project. When we get to the final, you know, when you have to turn in your final files, you will, that I think is never, all these projects, you don't have to turn them in right away. It's never that same week. You'll see that project 1, for example, the final will have to be turned in by week 3 or something like that. You always have 2 or 3 weeks per project. We have 4 projects total in 11 weeks. Now, these, when you see optional, means are things that you don't have to necessarily open or do, but they're really helpful if you actually do open it. For example, the software practice assignment, they're exercises, and they used to be due. I actually decided this quarter not to demand that you do them, because when I teach this class, I notice students come from all different levels, and some students already took classes in the software alone, not necessarily on the design side, but the software per se. And so they don't necessarily need to go and do little exercises, very beginner level exercises on little tiny things like how to, you know, modify artboards. These are very small, delightful gems of exercises in which you do little tiny beautiful tasks. So their practice is something that allows you to practice the software. If you are completely new to the software, I highly encourage you to do these exercises. They are going to be lifesavers. That is, if you do the exercises, you will be fully functioning and able to do the projects. So they are options in the sense that I do not demand that you turn them in, and I don't grade them, but it's really you now in college, now a responsible, a beautiful person, an adult that knows how important it is to learn and is in class because they really want to, that decides to do these exercises. So every week there will be these practice assignments that you can choose if you want to do or not, depending on your skill level with the software. Again, if you're a complete beginner, please do those because it will help you out tremendously. If also you decide you want to turn them in because you got a lesser of a grade on an assignment or something, please talk to me. Means if project 1 you got a B instead of an A and you want to catch up, you can definitely talk to me about getting these to count. So I'm more than happy to reward you for all the work you do. That's why I'm here, to help you work hard and reward you for it. So every week we'll have that pattern. You'll always have a checklist in which it tells you what to do that week, what is to be turned in, and always by when. Again, it's generally Wednesday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, and the discussion. Now, the discussion you will have to, we'll open one discussion in a minute. You will have to post something, and then you will have to respond by Sunday to a post of one of your classmates so that there is some form of exchange. And you will see in class, we will take time to use breakout rooms for you guys to help each other throughout the project and you guys to talk about the discussions. So let's look at one of the discussions right here. So we open the checklist where it says what is due on week 2. Again, learning resources, there are all videos about the software. And this is project one that slowly throughout the weeks you have to turn in intermediate steps. Like this one is about turning in the symbolic gestural sketches. Talking about that, by the way, sketches does not mean you have to do a masterpiece drawing. So for whoever is concerned, should I draw well? I always tell no, you need to draw in a way that I can see what you're trying to achieve. So what is the scale of a certain object? What is the positioning on the page that you're assigned to fill? So the sketches are truly about meaning and communicating what you're planning to do than to do a pretty drawing. And we will talk about sketching and concept sketching, what is important, how to do it. So we will talk about it. But do not worry if you do not draw routinely or you don't feel like you have that artistic flair, you can do great in this class because this class is not about pretty drawings for sure. Let's open the discussion. And again, in the discussion, like I was telling you, in this case is an introduction of design and is the rules of composition and is just an overall overview of what design is about. And you watch this video. These videos are generally very short and sweet, no more than 10-15 minutes. You watch this video and then you post, a resource you found that is on the same line or something that is important that you found online on that topic. And then you go and read your classmates' responses and you comment on one for the Sunday. As I said, you get this on Wednesday. By Sunday, you do a response. So that's pretty nice, as you will have kind of hopefully time. The discussion is not intended to take a lot of time. It's more like quick thinking about design and looking for a resource for everyone to enjoy, pretty much. And in week 2, like in every week, you have these software practice assignments. They are, again, exercises. In this case, you're doing a drawing with shapes and you're drawing this rocket. And there are, always several ones. You can do them all. You can do only a few. But they're basically practice with software. Again, optional, but highly recommended if you're new to the software, because it will tremendously make your projects that are graded much, much better. Same pattern for week 3. We have the checklist, we have the learning resources, we have the discussion, all to do. Then the practice assignment are optional, and I'm going to put the to do at the top. There we are. So remember that we have, by week 3, we introduce project 2, because by, I think, week 4, project 1 is due, I believe. Actually, let me see. No, sorry. By week 3, you turn in project 1, and because of that, we start project 2. So project 2 is a really fun one. I love this project. It's to create a self-portrait. And you have 2 ways to make it. One is as an avatar. The image on the right is the avatar. So imagine you create a website for yourself or something, or like even here on Canvas, you could put that avatar image. I should make one for myself now that I think about it. But here you could have that image. The avatar is basically you, but in a very stylized format. And then you have an option of creating that same portrait, but in a realistic format. So you have 2 options, 2 styles to fulfill. An abstract one that we call avatar and a photorealistic one that generally is much easier because it's just pretty much taking a photo, bringing it into the software, tracing it, obviously adding shadows and all the bells and whistles that we teach you. I say we because some of the videos you'll find on this class are actually from Nick Bockelman, that is the instructor for 182 as well. He teaches a different session and we work together to prepare all these videos. Examples from past students' work. You can see that some are really a lot of fun. I think most of them are a lot of fun. The students generally enjoy this, and again, there is the grading and everything else. Now, this is just the introduction. Remember that after outline, there's something called the process, and in the process is where you get to see all of the dates, the due dates. So here we break everything down. Again, we as Nick and I decide all this together. We break everything down on what is, due and when to basically coach you through this a second project that, again, lasts a couple of weeks. And again, last in week 3 are these practice assignments for you that just to practice the software. Once again, optional, but highly recommended. And all the weeks are broken down in the same way. You have the checklist, you have the learning resources, there are videos to get you to progress in both of the design and the software. You have, sometimes we make learning resources specific to a project. So for example, this is specific to project 2, is a video on how to get project 2 done. And you know, different techniques, like this one is a beautiful one, is Nick, and is how to trace this image of this woman, creating eyelashes, shadows, is fantastic. So bottom line is there will be times in which those learning resources are totally targeted to get you to do a fantastic job in the projects. Obviously, we always have the discussion. We have the practice assignments for software improvement that are optional. And then these are basically tips and tricks in the software. Sometimes or this design that sometimes. I'm clicking on the second one. And the second one is actually the design part, that it shows you how to create this design, this little mascot emblem, how you basically start from a photograph and start sketching. Now, in this case, obviously the sketches are beautiful. It's not something you have to do in this class. It's more like a little gem, a little freebie thrown out there for you to see as a designer, where do you start and where do you end, the entire process, and how the tools we teach you are truly important to succeed. So there will be times in which we throw things in, but as you can see, those are optional. It's just more for you to hopefully get inspired, get to see your progress and how things are in the real world. This one is actually technical and this one is design oriented. And then every week is going to be checklist, learning resources, discussion, the submission of the project. This is the final submission for project 2. So obviously right after we introduce project 3. Let's look at project 3. Project 3 is in actually a hybrid format between Photoshop and Illustrator. So the first 3 weeks of the course, we focus on software that is Illustrator, you know, tools and tricks, and a project that use Illustrator. So the first 2 projects use Illustrator, both of the 4 ways natural object and the self-portrait are Illustrator. This one is actually more focused on Photoshop. So you'll see that you have to composite images in Photoshop based on a word that you're given. You have to create an image, like, you know, this student did a word disoriented and try to depict this a sense of disorientation. This one emotional. So you're basically given a word. This one is chomp, as you can see. So you're given a word and you have to create a composite image that starts from photographs in Photoshop, then bring it into Illustrator and add vector art in Illustrator. So this is a hybrid. These are past student works, by the way. And this is kind of the project dissected, showing all the components that we want in there. And then obviously there is a grading rubric. Project 3 also is a lot of fun, but it is, I think, challenging because you really have this multitasking in terms of thinking of the word, thinking of the image in terms of photograph, and thinking on the vector component. So there are 3 tasks to accomplish. Fabulous, fabulous project though. Again, we obviously have the process here with broken down week by week. What do you need to turn in, and explained all the different steps to get there. And then lastly, I think this is project 3, we have project 4. I'm going to actually kind of move through. All the weeks are the same. As I said, checklist, learning resources, discussion. This one is a video on, and actually I think is a deadline, so submission on project 3. And then there are some demo. This is the video on project 3. You see, when you see demo, project 3, learning resources, compositing demo, is how do you do a composite image in Photoshop. And then obviously we have the optional, you know, exercises for a software improvement. And then there is a little survey on week 6 to ask you, how are we doing? Are you feeling comfortable in the class? You know, I always try to pick your brain to make sure that I do well as a teacher and the class is progressing happily. As I said, you will have time with me in which I do a demo. a time with other classmates in which you communicate in breakout rooms without me most of the time, actually. I really want you guys to get to know each other, even if we are on Zoom. Let me go to project 4 and introduce that, because by now you kind of see how the weeks are all very similar in a way of, so you're submitting project 3 on week 8. So right after we have a project 4 overview. Project 4 is with InDesign and is how to create a creative portfolio that is online. So how to create, you know, a PDF, an interactive PDF, and this is actually the breakdown, the rubric, and the description of the project. Obviously, we have the process with all the deadlines. I noticed, oh yeah, I noticed you don't have example of student work, but you do. I forgot to open it. You have a series of PDFs. Let me open just one of them. Let's see if we can just look at it really quickly. So this is a student that did exactly what I was saying, this basically online portfolio. And she called it process book. You can, you know, and unfortunately, oh yeah, there we are. I can, within Canvas, scroll down. So there is a page, there's a table of content that shows you all the projects she did. She decided to do it. I know as a computer scientist, did not have a lot of prior art. So she decided to do this to kind of summarize what she did throughout the class. You could decide to actually have it as a portfolio of also past work. These are buttons now that don't work within Canvas. You have to download the PDF and view it on Acrobat. But these are buttons that allow you to kind of navigate through this entire project. And she shows all the projects she did in the class and other stuff that she did in class, like even exercises. We'll see in class we talk about color, RGB, CMYK, digital color, digital design, line, strokes, type, obviously. So this is kind of what, and you see, she actually did in that class, we assigned to create a mascot, and she created this little mascot with the fox, the little baby fox. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary when I look at this work, that the students start, some of them is like this student, from a complete beginner, and how far you go within a quarter. So it's going to be an intense quarter, but it's going to be worth it. It means by the time you're done, you'll be incredibly proud. These are the little sketches I was telling you that don't have to be pretty, but they're more about where is the positioning of a certain object. Like in this case, clearly the duck is right in the middle of the page, and there is a scale difference between the human and the duck. These are kind of the sketches I mentioned, that they don't have to be necessarily pretty, but they do need to say, what are you planning to put in your project? See, eventually she did different option, different design, and this was the final design. In that class we assigned to create a surreal image, and that's what this is. So anyway, you can see that, you know, it's about 20 to 30 pages portfolio, and all of these are portfolios that you can download and look. Let me see, let me go to this student very quickly. I don't want to, this student is much more kind of like decided to stay much more into a boxy format, versus Fiona kind of broke away from it, tried to not have as many boxes. So it's up to you, obviously, which design you want to give to this portfolio piece. I'm going to move on from this because we will look at all this in detail throughout the class. I just want to do an overview for now. So that was week 8 project, the usual practice assignments, and then we go in week 9, in which you continue to do the project. Obviously, every week has the discussion component. Remember, the discussion is mainly a video about design. In this case, there are 2 videos, this one and this one. This one is about scale. This one is about what you call design hierarchy. You know, you see that there are 2 elements, which of the 2 stands out and why, and how can you use color or scale to make an object or an item in your design stand out. So these 2 videos are something you need to comment on, and then have a comment on a student comment. But bottom line is, you make your own comment, then you go read your classmates' ones and you comment on one of theirs. So as usual, week by week, you have the checklist, learning resources. Sometimes you have the project learning resources, like this one is about how to create an interactive PDF. You always have a discussion. This is part of the project is due, Every time the projects are due, we'll have a design critique on what you did so that you feel like you are progressing with someone really looking through your work, not just, doing work with nobody watching. I'm always here watching and happy to do so and help you most of all. And then we have the practice. In this case, on week 9, the practice is actually due because for the project 4 is a great basically a training for doing the interactive PDF. So in this practice, what you're doing is you're creating an interactive PDF of this NASA page, basically NASA portfolio piece. Is beautiful NASA posters, and you're creating an interface so we can see them all. That is what basically happens in your project 4. So the only time when an exercise is truly due is in week 9. The other ones are optional. You can decide if doing them or not depending on your skill level. And then week 10 and 11 is honestly all geared toward your project, finishing everything up. You still have a discussion, but the discussion is a farewell, means it's a video of you or a posting of you saying what you enjoyed in the class, what would you do different, and then again you comment on one of your classmates' post. And then final submission is on the date of the final, that is Wednesday, December 8th, between 4 and 7 p.m. So I made it due on 7 p.m. So this self-grading sheet is, I ask you to actually put down which discussion you participated and which survey you participated to, because it's always nice to have a double. I always will go and look at the discussion and you post it and give you credit for it. But for me, this is a way to double check that I caught everything, because those discussion pages can be very long. And, if I'm a little tired and I miss one person that, posted, I don't want to risk to take a point away from you. So this is you telling me which discussion you participated to and which survey you participated to, because I give you credit also for the optional survey. And then there is a course evaluation, just like in week 6. There is an anonymous survey asking you how is the class. This is a survey, again, anonymous, in which I give you a little bit of credit to tell me how did it go. Is something that you feel like you learned a lot? How could I have done any better? So I generally ask your feedback mainly to improve for future classes. So this is, again, 182 with Enrica Lovaglio Costello, a nice hybrid between technical information, software, growth, and design growth, and a nice hybrid between me being in your life and demoing with you in front of you, you doing some work on your own, and definitely having all these discussion and critiques and breakout rooms in which you get to know your classmates and become a community, because I feel like it's very important that we get to know each other even if the class is on Zoom. Hopefully that was a good intro, and I will look forward to meeting you on September 20th to the 26th on that week, so that we get to know each other better. And remember, I love to be as helpful as I can be. So never hesitate to reach out to tell me that if you're confused, for example, that you're confused and you need more guidance, or to tell me that on Canvas there's a difficulty because we're trying to use a digital platform and sometimes there are little glitches. So whatever comes your way that you are baffled with, please let me know. I want to be helpful as much as I can be. All right? Ciao, ciao.